Hi, and welcome to Opinions on the Fly with me, Tyler, where today we'll be tying a fly while I discuss another hot topic in the media these days, or should I say not in the media, and that is our trucker convoy that's slowly making its way across Canada to go and have a conversation with our government because it seems like it's the only way to get their attention. First, let's walk through this fly that we're going to tie today. We got a couple things here at the back end of this fly. We've got a tail. The tail is just used for additional movement, wanting to ensure that we create a distraction at the back end of this hook away from the sharp pointy end. I would compare that to our media today, who's trying desperately to do almost anything other than report on the convoy itself. Then up front here we have a rather large shoulder, and what that's used to do is fan out and push water away from the hook, which in turn will attract the fish as well. And that collar, is similar to our conservative government right now that's making a big push trying to deflect some of the water and dodge most of the questions related to convoy and COVID-19 mandates, which I don't really appreciate. And then inside the fly itself, if I pull back some of this material, see we have a very skinny backbone. And that's very much like our Liberal government right now, where they just simply have no backbone. They simply are doing whatever they feel they want to do. They're not asking for democracy. They're just giving their opinions and not actually listening to the people. And I believe that that's what this convoy is truly about. So without any further conversation on that, let's move forward. All right, for all you fishermen out there, all I'm tying this with is a size 4 salmon steelhead fly. So again, we're tying an attractant pattern that is hopefully going to swim in the waters nearby the fish and get it to lash out and strike at the hook itself. So talking about the trucker mandate and traveling all across Canada, I guess the first prominent thing that has caught my attention is the lack of media coverage, good or bad, on trucker convoy. Most of the media today is discussing anything and everything other than these truck drivers who have come together to travel all the way out to Ottawa. And let's think about this. This isn't like a nice cruise down through Southern California. We've got the worst month for wintertime driving. And this convoy is stretching across the country as they travel in unity to bring their opinion and their belief to the Canadian government. So I really want to take a minute here to actually discuss the people that are participating in this convoy, because this is not your typical environmentalists or oil lobbyist type of group. This isn't the group that likes protesting. This isn't the group that likes to make waves, so to speak. But what they are just the middle class working people. They do their jobs day in and day out. And I think part of this mandate is that the government is now making it almost impossible for them to do their job. So they have decided to come together. And what I find very interesting is how many Canadians have come out to back them up, which really makes us have to think about these mandates and where our government sits right now, both the Liberals and the Conservatives. I mean, we can include the NDP in that matter too, because if you think about it, the NDP are really the government right now that's allowing the Liberals to continue to bulldoze their way through Parliament, if there was a Parliament. But seeing how Trudeau and his government have decided to postpone that and close Parliament until at least January 31st. I saw today in the news that conveniently Trudeau has had an exposure to COVID, so he's now in self-isolation, which, it's a pretty good way to protect your government official from the media, from the questions, and from the convoy that's arriving on his doorstep. If you ask me, the timing there is really questionable. But it also makes me wonder what happens. Our Prime Minister, Trudeau, is fully vaccinated. So why would he be concerned if he's had an exposure? Because I thought our vaccine mandates protected us from the virus. If that's not the case, then why do we have these mandates in place? And I think that that's another good question for another time, but also what our convoy of truck drivers are attempting to bring to light, right? If we look over at Britain, at the UK, or officially have dropped all their vaccine mandates, their vaccine passports, and they've said, you know what, we're going to attempt to live life normally now. And we're always usually a step or two behind them. So it'd be interesting to see what the government plans. And I think that that's part of my question and my opinion today, is that not necessarily whether this truck driver convoy across Canada is right or wrong, but more so is that I think when you look at how many Canadians have stood up behind and supported the truck drivers, both financially and then also braving the weather elements to stand outside while they drive by with their signs and their flags in a peaceful demonstration, I think that that should alert our government and actually take a look and say, hey, maybe this actually deserves our attention. Maybe we actually need to look and see what our policies are and how they're actually affecting the working class population of Canada. But going back to our government and you know, our conservatives, Aaron O'Toole, like he refuses to make a stance one way or the other related to COVID mandates, but also to supporting or not supporting this truck driving convoy. Former conservative leader, Mr. Scheer, has even come out to say, like, hey, these mandates are barbaric, they're troubling, they're the worst thing for Canadian politics, but also more importantly for the Canadian people as a whole. They're shutting down entire communities because of it, and it's just leading to more and more anger and hate between, you know, family members, community members, all that stuff that I've already talked about, so I'm not going to get back into that. But then we have our NDP government that, you know, Mr. Singh has stepped up to the platform, and at least, you know, I'll give him credit, he has actually said, hey, I don't support this convoy. Which is fine. You're allowed to have your personal opinions. That's what makes Canada a great country to live in. I find it interesting that his brother-in-law donated $13,000 to the convoy movement. Although since the media caught a hold of that, I guess he's since said he didn't actually know what the money was going to be used for, which, you know, how do you donate $13,000 and not know where that money's going? That to me just makes no sense whatsoever, and probably could be an opinion on itself. But anyways, I do find it interesting that he did donate money and he did support the convoy, right? Which just goes to show the diversity even within a political party's family. There is a split. I saw yesterday that Mr. Theo Fleury actually even went on to the Fox News, and, you know, again, take it or leave it if you like Fox News or you don't, but I do find it interesting that Fox Media or Fox News has actually provided more information and more media spotlight on the convoy than our own Canadian media. You know, I see things like suddenly our highway live feed cameras have been turned off right conveniently before our convoy of trucks come driving through it. And, you know, that just fans the flames, right? That doesn't help anything. It doesn't create, you know, back up Trudeau's stance that, oh, you know, this is nothing, this is a minority of people. If anything, it just fans the flames of doubt and confusion. And I think that what we need to do is we need to focus on getting back to reality. We need to focus on actually understanding as a government, whether you're Liberal, Conservative, Green Party, NDP, it doesn't really matter. These governments are supposed to be there for the people and to bid the people's well-being and do work for them on behalf of them. And it's such a backward system right now. Our new way of governing is that it's our way or no way. There's no room for discussion. There's no room for debate. There's no room for democracy. And that's the scary thing again, right? So it's just interesting that as I reflect back, that our government, one, is ignoring, sure, maybe it is a minority, but it doesn't actually matter. The government should still stop and say, hey, if people are willing to put this much time and effort into traveling across the country as a convoy, just to bring to attention that, hey, some of our mandates that we've put in place, we didn't actually think about the outcome for that working class people, or the ripple effect that's going to happen when these people start losing work, start losing jobs, start losing the ability to feed their families, right? And a lot of time these positions or these mandates are decided by people that don't necessarily aren't affected by the long-term outcome, right? It's pretty easy to sit there and make a rule, make a decision when it doesn't directly affect you. But when it starts to directly affecting the livelihoods of a large population of people, whether that's the grocery store, whether that's just a worker that needs to go buy groceries from that grocery store, or the delivery truck that's supposed to be delivering food to those grocery stores, this all becomes a ripple down effect that creates massive problems. It creates instability within our communities. It creates more animosity because the narrative is still, well, it's either you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, and the unvaccinated are who's causing these problems. But it's definitely apparent now that it's not the unvaccinated. It's COVID. People are getting COVID, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Calling people sheep for just being vaccinated, calling people anti-vaxxers. This doesn't help, doesn't create any solutions. It just further creates problems and diversions. And it kind of looks to me like our governments and our media outlets want that to continue, because it takes away from the fact that we aren't living normally anymore. It won't affect these people that are running our country right now. And I think that we need to have more communities stand together and start questioning our governments, whether that's the Liberals, the Conservatives, the NDP, or Environmental Green Party. We need to have these discussions, and we need to ensure that all community members are involved in those conversations, that we're not just cherry picking the hot topics, that we're not just doing what's right for the people that are going to get the most votes. We need our governments to start acting like governments. And I think the only way that that's going to happen is by people such as our truck drivers right now that are actually standing up and saying, okay, enough is enough. I want you to listen to what I have to say. You, as my government, as the elected officials, need to know and understand that you are there because we have voted you into power, and you need to be looking out for our well-being. So is right or wrong, but I think that our governments need to start waking up, and I think we need to actually look at some of these decisions and mandates that we're making and understand the ripple down effect and how that affects the communities in which all of us live, operate, and hopefully one day get to participate in organized sporting events, tournaments, go into our parks without masks, give each other hugs. Those are the things that we want. And the only way we're going to get that is if we stand together as a community and start pushing back on some of the decisions that have ripple down effects that affect our lives on a personal level. So again, thanks for joining me. That's my opinion. You can take it or leave it. Cheers.